Hello, my name is Jason JROCK Houston, and you're listening to Chaotic Riffs Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.chaoticriffs.com. Our special guest tonight is Corners of Sanctuary Guitarist Mick Michaels. How you doing tonight, Mick?
All right, man. How you doing?
It's great to hear from you now. We set up this interview because about a week ago I posted a review of your CD that came out in 2018. That's the latest release now. Has that been out for a couple months, or did it just drop like towards the end of the year?
Well, actually, it had a digital release in May. I think it was May 18th. It was a digital release.
Okay.
And then the physical CD actually released in August while we were in Europe playing. We were actually in Belgium with the day that the album released. So it was kind of cool, you know. So technically there was like 2 release dates.
Oh, cool.
Officially, though, I think some of the sites have it listed as, you know, releasing in May. So, but,
okay.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool. That's the way it's done now. So, was that the first time you guys have played Europe?
Yes. This last summer was our first time in Europe.
And how exciting was that? I mean, how did the fans react to you guys over there?
Well, for us, it was super exciting. You know, I mean, it was like a huge adventure, of course. We had a really good reception, and we were concerned, you know, give and take, you know, not being there, never being there before, but, you know, we've gotten some word that, you know, that the music was doing well over there, and our label is in Germany, so, you know, we got to do that, and it was good. We were really happy with everything turned out.
So what parts of Europe did you guys get to?
We get to go back, yeah.
So what parts of Europe did you guys get to go play?
We played in several places in Germany.
Okay.
Several places in Belgium.
Yeah, that makes sense.
We were there for about 10 days.
Cool, makes sense since, you know, the labels I know based out of Germany. And now, getting back to the review I posted, you know, one thing I got to tell people about the new CD that I really dug, and I kind of, I remember putting something like this in the review. My only complaint about the album is that the album's got 10 great tracks. My only complaint is that there weren't 11, and the reason for that, Mick, is because I can honestly say that this is one of the few albums that I've actually listened to where I did not push like the forward button, wanted to go on to the next track. I listened to every single track from start to finish, and it just seemed like as the album progressed, the songs got better and better, if you know what I mean.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, well, you know, we had toys. Actually, when we went in to write the album and record it, we were actually working towards doing a double album.
Wow.
To do two CDs worth. We're really working. And we took about 3 months to do that. I'd say maybe 3/4 of the way through the recording process, I think we came back to reality and said, you know, nobody does double albums anymore. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, unless you're Guns N' Roses or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
The climate just doesn't call for it. So, you know, our delusion of grandeur kind of disappeared, and we got back to reality, and we said, listen, let's just focus on what we were going to consider the first part of the album, of the double album, you know, part 1, so to speak.
Well, yeah.
And that's what we did, and we 10 solid tracks. We wanted to really put everything that we could into it, and that's basically how we approached it. We knew that there was going to be some differences in the writing. And one of the biggest things is we had everyone contribute writing in terms of the lyrics.
Wow.
But we also had some more, like our drummer, Ed T, also plays guitar. So some of those songs he helped write or wrote the majority of the guitar stuff. So which was a challenge for me to learn someone else's style.
Wow.
And, you know, that type of things, which gave us a little bit more depth into the music, along with everybody contributing a little bit more to the lyrics. And, you know, we looked to try to make it a more mature album, so it's a little more progressive than our previous, but I feel that we kept our core sound and style.
Oh, yeah.
And, so we're pretty proud of it for whatever, you know, people feel. Us, we're excited. We feel that it was definitely a piece of our catalog, like a milestone for us in terms of how we went through production, the writing, the arrangement, all that kind of stuff. So
well, that's kind of interesting, because I will say that this album felt, like you said, it was really focused, and I will say from start to finish, it's really a cohesive album in that every tune on there, they all feel like that they belong, if you know what I mean, and it doesn't feel like there's anything on there that doesn't fit the other songs.
Yeah, well, I would definitely agree. Again, all those, they were written with the idea that they were for that album, right?
Okay.
And we had the title, The Galloping Hordes, was something that I came up with. I actually woke up with it in my head, Galloping Hordes, and the idea is to have that idea of the gallop, that feel of the gallop throughout the whole album, and that was what everything stemmed from. So that was the writing, the arrangement, the type of riffing that we did, the drums, with the kicks and all. We definitely wanted to have that feel, and so having something like that, having a theme or a focus, really made it. Not that it's easy, but it was easy in an enjoyable way, I have to say.
Yeah, and see, it's for anybody who's into metal. It's just a great overall metal album. But I will say, I'm also I like to play off of words, and when I hear something like the Galloping Hordes, I'm trying to think, okay, what does this mean? And right away, I kind of thought, okay, maybe Galloping Hordes, maybe talking about their increasing fan base. So it's kind of interesting that you say that's what it's about, because again, I think people hear the title and they kind of wonder, okay, Galloping Hordes, what is that? I've never heard that before. It makes people kind of think about it, for a minute.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this: that when we started it, we, once we had an idea of the galloping type thing, a lot of the songs were being written. Well, we have a tendency, we write a lot of songs about word of battle and those type of things, but we also write about self-empowerment and overcoming and things of that nature. So we were initially going with the idea that we were going to touch upon wars and battle throughout history. So you'd have something or things that people had to overcome. So there's like a song that could be loosely interpreted with World War II.
Wow.
There's stuff there, samurai, during the feudal times of Japan and war like that. There's about gladiators in the Roman.
Wow.
They were slaves
to
fight of all different types of nationality, that type of thing. So we had a lot of that, but then we also sometimes don't want to beat people over the head with it, so we leave some looseness to it where people can make their own interpretation. Now, I mean, there's some things like track 5, Hail, Hail.
Yeah.
There's you can't really kind of hide the fact that we're talking about gladiators.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of cool things in there, and like I said, we're really happy with the album, and we're pretty excited that other people are feeling the same way.
Yeah, and you guys aren't the first band to base your songs, your stage ideas around something like that. I mean, Manowar, Iron Maiden, a couple bands that come to mind, and it makes it kind of more fun for the fans too. Like when they come to a show like that, and it's kind of it makes them think about, oh, these guys actually sat down and actually thought about what they were writing about.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of like our drummer. He's kind of like a history buff, history and some other stuff. But he's done a lot of American stuff, like on wars, American. So it's kind of something. James, he's really History Channel. He really likes all that kind of stuff. So it's the interests, and and we enjoy music, so we're putting all those things together. And I think that we're more of a truthful type of process.
Yeah.
True to ourselves and who we are. We're not going to be or something that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I'm sure that this band could probably do a thrash type album or something that but sustainable for us, because it's not part of our makeup in terms of the type of metal musicians that we are. So
yeah.
You know, we gravitate towards that traditional classic approach. That's where we see our ability.
Yeah.
So there's no point of trying to do something that we're not. It's like, you know, I'm not that tall of a person, so me playing, you know, center for the Lakers probably isn't a smart thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like you said, you got to stay true to who and what you guys are, because if you try to go out of, you know, the COS box, so to speak, and we're gonna put out a, you know, like a YouTube type album, you know, fans will not go for that. They know you're faking it or, you know, trying to sell out or whatever. And people can feel when bands do that.
Right, exactly. And I think to be true to the fans or to the listeners or to people that come to see your show or whatever, you got to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
Because then you're doing what works best for you, what makes you happy.
Yeah.
And I think that way you never have to look over your shoulder or try to figure out what was the story you said before.
Yeah, and you know, I know you're a bit of a Kiss fan yourself, and you know,
yes.
they put on great theatrical shows. So I guess that's kind of where that comes in too. But let me ask you, being the Kiss fan you are, what do you think about Kiss finally going on what they're calling their final farewell tour?
Well, I got my tickets, man.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going. So, I mean, I'm not going to miss that. I think that if they're going to do this 3-year tour and if they're going to do it all over, you know, hit every part, I think it's fantastic to go out like that. You know? Regardless of everything that's kind of going on the criticism side of what's happening or what's not happening, who knows? It's beyond that. I personally don't think that this is the end of Kiss. They never said that they were done and had up or whatever. I think they're just done with big tours.
Yeah,
I mean, these guys are pushing 70 and stuff like that. I don't know. Everybody keeps saying, you know, I don't see that where they need to do it, but I don't know, you know.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to see Kiss do more like things like the Whiskey A Go-Go type stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe more TV appearances. Maybe even go to Broadway.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, everybody else seems to be doing it, and I mean, who better could do Broadway than Kiss? You know what I mean? I mean, it's a sight sound type of thing. You know
I think the only other band that's done anything like that it would be maybe Queen, and that's because they come from like the same time period. They got the same type. And see, Kiss is one of those bands that a lot of people see as a joke band because you know they wear the clown makeup and that. But see, part of the reason they've lasted for over 40 years, Mick, as you know as a fan, is these guys, they're great songwriters. They got the songs. I mean, if you got that many hits on the radio, people are listening to, you know, every day. There's something to what they do, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think well, it's not really clown makeup, you know.
Kabuki, yeah. But
again, that's kind of rooted in ancient Japan.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's what part of that allure was. Which I mean, there was in my opinion, a definite difference between, you know, when they came out in the 70s. Yeah. What a clown in a circus looked like and what.
No. I mean, no disrespect, because I totally agree because.
No. I know, absolutely. I'm just saying. And some people they get, you know, there's that, and then you know. There's been. I mean, the critics have always said about them that they, you know, well, they couldn't really play or their music didn't have a lot of substance. They never claimed any of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like they did, you know. Like, you know, the media and fans and critics, they're the ones that gave them all these tags. They were just a rock and roll band.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, kind of like AC/DC. AC/DC never went around saying heavy metal, that.
Yeah.
They were just a rock and roll band and did their thing. It's what everybody links them as or puts tags on. They just did the thing.
Yeah.
And you either liked them or you didn't like them. I mean, they never forced anybody to do it, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I took, you know, in the 70s, so it was definitely something.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you think about it, there's certain brilliance to what they did because, I mean, like you said, okay, maybe before them there was maybe the New York Dolls and Alice Cooper, but like they took it a step further. Like instead of just one guy being dressed up in the band, we're gonna have 4 guys. They're each gonna have their own unique, you know, character. You know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. That's with part of the allure. I mean, here it is, 40-some years later, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and, we know what they look like, we know who
Yeah.
they are, we know more about them than ever, yet people are still drawn to that era in the 70s of, like, and there's still mystery, and there's still this, and there's that.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That itself says it all.
Yeah, especially, back in the day, in the 70s, pre-internet, nobody had any clue what they looked like. They had big security guards that would, if anybody dare even try to get a shot of the guys, they'd take their film away, and nobody had any clue what they looked like. But yes, I think it's great that they're going out in a big way. But now how big of a
most artists, the one that have that length of career, they had their ups and downs. Who has it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to go out like this, I mean, this is going out in style, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit.
Yeah, I mean, and I was going to ask you, how big of an influence was Ace Frehley on your guitar playing?
Well, I was not actually. In a sense, like I have two favorite guitar players. Ace Frehley's one, and the other one is K.K. Downing.
Okay, wow, interesting. Okay.
So there's, again, because like when I was a kid in the 70s, it was Ace Frehley. It was that look, it was that sound. He had a distinct sound.
Yeah.
Right? He had a distinct playing thing. Now, I mean, to be honest, like Ace never did like super technical stuff.
Yeah.
He actually did a lot of recycling of certain little key phrases.
Yeah.
And I think that was, he had this simple. And then as I got older and got more involved in music myself, Kiss was like the first band for me.
Yeah.
And then the band that I graduated to was Judas Priest.
Okay.
And I immediately took to that dual guitar sound,
Yeah.
And KK's just his presence with it and the playing, but so those two guys, though I don't necessarily play like either. I'm probably more like KK.
Uh-huh.
Not that I say that I'm
No.
KK at all. I'm not even close to it. But if you had to go, I'm less of a player like
Ace.
Okay. Except for that, I try to use that simplicity approach. And that's where again I have found that every time we go in to do an album, and this is no bullshit. Every time of course, Sanctuary goes into an album, I find that I start immerse myself in playing a lot more Kiss.
Wow. Yeah.
Because like I'm trying to hear that dynamic that they had within the studio in those early times, and I'm talking like Destroyer, Rock and Roll Over.
Yeah.
That I even go to, and I know this is like the taboo with some people, but again, being a Kiss fan, this is where I'm at. I listen to Dynasty, and I'm a fan of the Elder. I like the Elder.
Wow. Yeah, the Elder. That's a funny story because for years that's one of the albums was out of print until they reissued it years later. But and I was running around and trying. That's the one album I need to get to my collection, and I finally did. And it was what it was. But again, like you said, I didn't think it was an awful album. It maybe wasn't your typical standard Kiss album, but I dug it for what it was, and I kind of wish that they were going to base a movie around it or something. I don't know if they ever made the movie. It never got released, but that would have been an interesting thing to see.
Oh yeah, there would have been a lot of cool stuff. I think that's a really cool album. You're right. You're absolutely right when you say it wasn't like a typical Kiss album. It just wasn't. Probably the most typical Kiss song for the album would be like I.
Yeah.
That would then kind of result it more towards what they did or how the feeling was when they didn't have the makeup on. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, I mean, I totally agree.
Like a precursor to like God gave us rock and roll or that kind of thing, like that type of more feel. But like to me, like Under the Rose, that's probably like the best song on the album. Like people may not know. I think Under a Rose, Eric Carr was a co-writer on that, and it's kind of funny that was Eric Carr's first album with them because he's such a heavy drummer, and and Creatures of the Night, I guess, is kind of his favorite album.
that he had done with them. But it's kind of funny that preceded Creatures of the Night.
Yeah. Well, again, it's where the band was, what they were looking for, what they were trying to achieve. And again, I think that they were like we've read, they were trying to achieve a more approval within their own ranks.
Yeah.
They wanted to be looked at a different way. Maybe they were trying to shed that
image.
What they were. Again, listen, a band cannot be held
responsible.
Well, not responsible for saying, but you can't hold them over a flame for wanting to try to push the bar for themselves, even for the audience. I mean, that's what a band does. I mean, do you really want? I mean, listen, one of the bands that were probably most successful, and Angus Young had said, like one critic said, listen, you made 10 of the same albums.
Yeah.
And he responded, he goes, no, you're wrong. He goes, we made 11 of the same albums.
Yeah.
I mean, and so the funny thing is like, they had their formula, they stuck with it, and it worked with them. And so, but not everybody's going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Like they don't, so they, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, the best way to sum it up is kind of what you're saying is like, talking like a band like Kiss, in a 40-year span, when you got an album like, one album such as The Elder, where everybody say, that's not your greatest moment, overall their body of work is pretty good. And even, getting back to Elder for a minute, see, people like to nitpick things, it's flavor of the month, whatever everybody else says. But if you really listen to some of the songs, for example, the single off that album, World Without Heroes, okay, one of the big controversies was, oh my God, Gene Simmons is singing a ballad. Oh my God, did you see the video? The demon has got a tear, down his face, and stuff like that. But if you listen to the words, it's kind of a pretty nice sentiment. Yeah, it would be nice. Everybody kind of needs a hero,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, so, hey, listen, it is what it is. I commend them. I got my tickets. I'm going.
Yeah.
They're in Philly. They're in Philly the end of next month.
Wow.
End of March. So I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I don't imagine you've ever crossed paths with any of the guys over the years, or met them.
Honestly, no. But I did have an opportunity next October. To see Paul in person. He was about 6 feet away from me.
Okay.
I got a couple pictures with him. He was being escorted in by security, and I wasn't going to cross that line.
Yeah. There you go.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he was here in the area, with his artwork, and also I had an opportunity to go there and check out some of his artwork.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
So that was pretty cool. You know what I mean? To me, that was cool.
And I got to ask you a little bit more about your being a Kiss fan. What do you think about the whole controversy about Tommy and Eric wearing the Peter and Ace makeup? Because to me, it almost kind of shows that that those four iconic characters almost became bigger than the people that were portraying them, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, listen, yes. I'd like to see Ace back in the fold, honestly, just because I wouldn't care if Peter Criss comes back or not. I was never
I hear you.
a huge fan of him. But like Ace would be definitely cool. But again, I have my tickets. I'm going to see them. I know full well.
You get your money's worth. You get your money's worth, definitely. Yeah.
Right. Like that. It's not Ace and Peter, but I'm still going. Right?
Yeah.
And it's because is it bigger than just the two of them?
Yeah.
It's the music, it's the everything. So yeah, would I like to see it? That. I mean, for any of the fans, especially from that early era. But, it is what it is. And I mean, if the stories that we've been told, that they sold their makeup and the rights.
Yeah, that's what I say. I mean, it's kind of stupid. If you're stupid enough to do that, okay. Yeah.
Well, they did it in a time when no one thought that this was going to be anything.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it, why they did it, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, I don't know these guys from Adam. One way or the other, but Gene and Paul can't necessarily be held to the fire because they decided to move on, make a career, or reestablish a career and do whatever they can to, you cannot begrudge people for trying to make a living.
Yeah, and here,
nobody would go to their day job if their boss said, "Listen, I can't pay you.
Yeah.
I can't give you health insurance, or we're taking away your lunch." So it's the same thing. These guys, success always begets some kind of criticism.
Yeah, and,
one way or the other.
Here's what I will say to that is they kept it going for 40 years. And if you think about it, Gene and Paul are the guys not only been there for 40 years straight, but they wrote the bulk of the songs. They sang the majority of the songs, and so a lot. And they kept it going. So I think they have a right to be doing what they're doing.
They put their time in.
Yeah.
They did. They put their time in. They did their thing. It's not like some band. And again, all the haters and you don't have to go see them. Nobody's forcing you.
Yeah.
You want to bitch and complain about things. Bitch and complain about other things like environmental issues or the air that you breathe or some of the chemicals that you're ingesting. What do I know?
Yeah, I hear you.
I play guitar, man. I don't know. I'm not running for president.
Yeah. That I dig that because so many people these days are into using their platform, so to speak, to let their political views out there and let the world know what they think. So it's great when you can just go out there and deliver the goods as far as your fans when the fans come and see your shows. Yeah. And you mentioned Dynasty. Now, I want to ask you, Dynasty, this is going to be, this year marks the 40th anniversary of that album, which is kind of another controversial album because a lot of people see that as because of one song, I Was Made for Loving You, they call that like a disco album. It's not really a disco album, but what were your thoughts on that album when it came out, back in the day when you heard it for the very first time?
Listen, I love that tune from the very beginning. There's a groove to it. It's cool. I never had a problem with it. Never had a problem with it. I never really thought of it as a disco thing until you started hearing over and over again. And that's more been like, I'd say in the past 20 years. More about that, about this disco, this, that, the other thing.
And it's funny,
that may be more of a product of the internet, as more and more people discovered stuff and whatever. But I think it's a great album. I love the whole album except for, I don't like Peter Chris's song. That song I usually skip over. Never like it.
Now let me ask you, too, a lot of people did not know at the time when the album originally came out. We know all these years later now. But except for that one song, Peter didn't play any of the drums on that. It was Anton Fig. As a Kiss fan, how do you feel about the fact that back in the day they felt the need to kind of cover that up or hide it? It's still a great album. It doesn't matter who's playing the drums, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick with that, I remember my buddy saying, when he first heard it, he'd go, man, it sounds different. And this and that, so there was some things, but then nobody questioned about it. We all knew anything, right? I think that was common stuff, whether the band made that decision on their own or it was the record company or it was management. Listen, they kept that stuff under wraps. They didn't tell when, the Beatles couldn't tell people that they were married at first because they thought that they were going to lose their female audience. So again, it's just all part of the thing. Using other musicians, I like again, and I don't really have a problem with that. I really don't. Again, we're talking. I'm talking to you as an independent type of artist. Even though we're with a label, we pretty much are allowed to do whatever we want because the labels don't act the same way. They're not putting out stuff. And, where you pretty much, the label owns you and everything you did, you have to follow suit out of a job. So, I don't, listen, there's nobody bitches and complains when they go watch an action-packed movie where everything's blowing up and
that's not real stuff.
They use miniatures and digital art and stunt people and stuff like that. Everybody, it's kind of accepted, right? Because looking at it and the same thing is with an album. Do you really want to listen to a shitty album?
Not really. I totally get that.
You know what I mean? So we're all striving to make best thing that we possibly can.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, like some people get to be like, just like, hey, are you making albums? If you're not making albums, then you don't know what goes into it. It's hard, the writing of the music. And these guys, you know, like you think about it, guys like on that level, maybe we just don't understand it. You know, the pressure that they have to write a hit, to make it going, because they, you know, all these people, you know, they're kind of responsible for, you know, they're under contract. Again, they could lose. So, I mean, I don't know. Again, do I have a problem with it?
No. I mean, because
again, like the songs that, you know, that like that what Dick Wagner played on, or Bob Kulick or whatever. They're still iconic Kiss songs. Right? Like, and that's what you say. They're iconic Kiss songs. They don't go, well, that's an iconic Paul Stanley song. Or that's you know. So there are, but you just usually say, hey, that's a great Kiss song.
Now, I just have two more Kiss-related questions, and we'll move on now. As a Kiss fan, like as far as a guitar track, I always thought was cool was the opening to like the song "Rock Bottom" off of "Dress to Kill." And if you've ever seen a video for it, it's kind of cool because it's got both kind of Ace and Paul playing the guitar together as they, you know, and it kind of kicks in. As a guitar player, have you ever practiced that song, or you know, what did you think of that song? You know, the first time you heard it.
It's, again, great song, and yes, I did used to kind of muddle through it long time ago. You know, when I playing, you know, early days of playing. I don't do, even today, I don't really do too much cover. I don't do really any covers. I can play a full cover if you paid me, unfortunately. Hence why I just do originals. So a lot of times when I'm playing guitar on my own, I'm either writing, working through some idea, or I am actually just trying to exercise my hand, working through some fingering stuff just to keep it as limber as possible. And as the older I get, the worse it seems to get. So I need to keep that. So that's a lot of what I do, besides, you know, rehearsing with the band and things like that.
Well, that's cool, because, you know, a lot of people, you know, they make a living, so to speak, playing other people's music, but the real money probably, as you know, is in doing the original stuff. So that's kind of where to be. Now, the last kind of Kiss-related thing I wanted to ask you is, I'm sure you've been seeing this all over the internet last couple weeks, where Nikki Sixx and Tommy Lee are saying that Kiss is copying their you know, stage. Now, as a musician, what do you think about when other bands say that? I mean, do you think they really have a right on saying, "Oh, that's our stage," or "That's, you know, we had a crane on our stage"? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I don't know. I don't use cranes. From some of the stuff that I recently read, a lot of times you're using, a lot of these guys will use the same production companies.
That's what I'm saying.
Or similar production companies that you know, use a lot of the same product. I don't know. Personally, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I know that Kiss had been talking, you know, hyping it up. Oh, this is the biggest stage, and this and that, and the other thing. And they got like 700 octagon screens up on stage. For some reason, I remember seeing that when they came through our area a few years ago. I could have sworn it was relatively the same setup. So again, I don't know. I haven't seen Motley Crue in years. I didn't catch on the so I don't know for sure. But I mean, I've seen pictures. Listen, I don't know if you're going to say that they took that from that, then anybody that used it be accused of stealing from Kiss from the 70s. If you've used confetti, then you stole them from Kiss. Or if you've used balloons, you know what I mean? Maybe you stole from, you know, I don't know, you know, Elton John. I mean, so if you brought a piano on stage, you took it from Billy Joel.
Elton John, or I mean, it's kind of funny to,
you know what I'm saying?
It's kind of funny to hear this stuff, because, you know, like you're saying, you know, everybody knows that, like Nicky has admitted he's been influenced by Kiss, and you know, Kiss definitely came way before Motley Crue, and so, you know, Gene and Paul, they've been flying over the stage and stuff for many years, so it's not like that's Motley Crue was the first band to ever do something like that. Now, it's funny that you were telling me how influenced you were by K.K. Downing, because also when I wrote my review, another statement I put in there was, you know, to my ears, the band, when I listen to your music, over not just the latest album, but the everything you put out before, kind of has an old school metal feel to me. Kind of like, I'd say you guys kind of sound like a cross between Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. Now you mentioned you're definitely influenced by Judas Priest. How about Iron Maiden?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, probably Iron Maiden. Definitely was aware of them. In terms of my song writing, whatever, it was. I definitely gravitated towards Judas Priest. However, we do a lot of the gallop, and I mean, Maiden is the one that perfected that gallop. So if we were all influenced by that. So I mean that heavy bottom end bass, literally picking up all that slack and just kind of steamrolling through. So I mean it all has influenced all of us. For sure,
and see my point in saying that is this, that before I talked to you today, I had no idea that you were at all influenced by Judas Priest, and like, it's funny because to my ears, I could kind of hear that influence coming out in your music, and there's nothing wrong with that, because like you said, those are the guys that influenced you, and so so it's going to come out some way or form, but at the same time, it doesn't come across to me that you're trying to be like a Priest clone band, if you know what I mean. You guys definitely got your own sound going, and that's a great thing, because I will say this, that I've always dug your music, but I do think on this latest album, you like taken a giant leap forward, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think where it marks in that with this album, it's kind of like it's an accumulation of the years that we've been working together. You know how like you have that album where it begins to peak, or all gelling. Not to say that we weren't gelling before, because we were, but like the writing style had started to develop even more so. And then we had a change in a drummer a couple years ago, which changed this album, right? Like how we were going to approach the sound, because Keith's style of drumming was different than our first drummer Sean's style of drumming. There was so ideas of arrangement and composing the songs changed. Yeah. But we also wanted to give, like, especially with this album, I mean, I've said it in some other interviews as we were, promoting the album's release and all that, we felt that we wanted this album to be more musical. And by that, I mean, not that we were doing a Broadway show. More musical in the fact that we were going to give the vocals more room, more breathing room, more air to do a little bit more. So by that, what we did was we lessened the layering of guitars. Now, since I'm a single guitar player, sometimes I have a tendency, I like to layer some guitars, and we have a bass rhythm, and then we would put something else on top, and that prior to this band being in bands that had two guitar players, so sometimes we were writing two parts and having counter rhythms and things like that. So that kind of was like a like a leftover type of approach that I was using on the earlier Corners of Sanctuary albums. Yeah. But then because our drummer style was different, there more air was created, and it gave us more of a solid back.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I will say the other change I heard on this album is in the past, a lot of the stuff, maybe because you were a principal songwriter, you're a sole guitar player in the band, it seemed like a lot of the past stuff was really centered around the guitar. Now, that wasn't really so much the case here. I heard a great guitar sound still, but what I really noticed was there was a much bigger drum sound, if you know what I mean, playing throughout the album. Yes. Yeah. And it was, and
I think because of that style, that sort of style change, something that you may have picked up on hearing us do older songs. Yeah. But it definitely becomes apparent when you start putting the albums back. Yeah. And so I think that added all to this. Like, I mean, we really kind of, like, we're putting a lot of our ducks in a row here, and that's because of several years doing it way or a different way, and we wanted to change and look for, and, we got the work with Bill Matoyer to master the album, which gave us, yet another perspective on what we were looking to get to this album. So production-wise, this is definitely our best album so far. We know more of what we want as a band, and we can verbalize that to the engineers, to the studio people that we're working with, that to achieve that, not like maybe early, and for what. We're in a better position where we can get a better album, right? We're first out there. Yeah. We're kind of like we're on a ton. We don't have the same finances.
Yeah.
That, and the other things. So kind of like we got to take what we get in a way, right? And and for our first couple albums, we had to deal with that, and that's one of the reasons why in the past 2 years there were some songs, a handful of songs that we went back in and re-recorded.
Wow.
And we released another album last year, actually in between the digital and CD release of the Gallopping Hordes, and it was called Finding Sanctuary, where I think there was 11 or 12 songs on there, and 8 of them were old songs that were redone.
Oh, wow.
They were re-recorded, and we also then took 4 other songs and we completely changed them.
Wow.
New lyrics, new arrangements, because some of the songs we didn't get a chance to do them the way we really wanted to, for whatever reason. There was technical issues, there was finance issues, there was we had timing restraints, whatever. And we just knew that we were happy with them at the time because that's what. But we always felt that there were certain songs that we wanted to do a little better because we do them live.
Yeah.
We wanted to achieve more of what we did live, so we did. And on this particular album, Finding Sanctuary, most of the songs, I think all but 2, don't have keyboards in them.
Wow.
We have a tendency. I lay a little keyboard back, but we don't do it live.
Okay.
I can't play keyboards and play guitar.
Yeah.
Some nights I can barely play guitar, given my hand. But so we approached it like that, and we got more of the songs the way we wanted them with it. So listen, songs just don't to us. It's like listen, George Lucas did it with Star Wars. How many times did it come out? Each time was a little different.
Yeah.
Besides what the critics say or don't say or like or didn't like, but that means things keep evolving, right? It doesn't mean that it just that's it. And, things can change.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing a song every night, always in your set, and it has been for years, that song is played way differently than it was, 10 years ago.
Yeah, let me ask you, when you put that album out with the new versions of the songs, how did fans react? I mean, react in a positive way? It's almost kind of funny because, thinking about it for a minute, you got you really have an opportunity where you could, if you wanted to go, we're gonna do a set of old, the old stuff, or we're gonna do the new version. But how did people realize these were older songs, or did you have to tell people, no, these are just kind of we're redoing some of the original songs?
Well, again, so here's first off, one of the best pieces of advice somebody gave me was that a song is always new to somebody.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So for us, all the songs that we did on the Finding Sanctuary album are all songs that we do live.
Okay.
Except for 2. I think there was 2 songs that we don't do live, which is basically, they were studio things, right? But we knew that going in. So people were already hearing them. The thing is the original version of those songs, 1, had a different drummer, and 2, had a different singer.
Wow, that does make a difference.
So Frankie wasn't on those. So this was an opportunity for us, and we had been talking about it for the past couple of years. Hey, are we going to get to this? Are we going to do that? And we had the opportunity to do it, so we did it. We tested the waters the year before with a couple songs, and it seemed to do real well. So we were like, hey, let's get the rest of these to
out
where
there.
We want them with the newest lineup that we have. So that's and so look at it especially at a merch table, because really, in today's market, the way the industry is, a band has to play shows and do the best that they can to sell a little bit of merch.
Yeah, because let's be honest, that's the way most bands make their money is through merchandise and playing live. Which is another thing I gotta say, Mick. But I got great respect for because a lot of bands that have been around maybe as long as Corners Sanctuary, you got 2 or 3 albums under your belt, and a lot of bands are saying, you know what? Why bother making? We're not going to bother making any writing or recording any new music. We're just going to live off our catalog of music. Nobody's buying CDs these days. But I dig the fact that you continue to write and record new music for your fans because, to me, it's sad the music industry is what it is. But if you're able to work around it, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to continue to put new music out there.
Yeah, listen, I get it. I totally get it. And I think if you had a back catalog that was generating
money,
a good amount of money, you could live off of it. And I understand that. I mean, I think every artist would love to be in that position. The problem is many of us, newer type of artists, and we don't have that luxury because it doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. So sales don't happen the way that they used to. It just doesn't, and so if you think about it. Like who are the artists that are still making the big payday? Or guys like Elvis, Michael Jackson, right? Bruce Springsteen, Led Zeppelin. Some of these people haven't released anything or are not even alive. Haven't released anything. How long? But yet their albums are still charting. They're still making money. They still have sales. Right. So how can you compete with a market like that? Right, so you got to do the best that you can, and I think with the kind of band that we are, we're just kind of like a meat and potatoes type of band. And for us, it's the old way or it's no way. And the old way is you got to go out, you got to play, and you got to connect with the fans that way. And if you pick up a couple new fans along, you're doing the best that you can. And something like the Finding Sanctuary CD. Somebody says, "Hey, you got a CD with this song from the set or something like that." Yeah, well, here you go. It's there's $7. Get yourself a CD. There's 12 songs from the set. So then they go home and they don't go, well, "What the hell am I listening to?" They kind of feel it, and then that makes interest to go buy the new album or check the new album out or whatever. You got to give them options. Yeah, and it's funny. Like you bring up guys like Michael Jackson.
Tom Petty, even Jim Morrison and the Doors, and these are bands that they're all very successful during their lifetime. But the funny thing is, they've sold even more records since they've passed on. Because a lot of people, Michael Jackson's dead. I got to go get get every single Michael Jackson album that's out there. It's just and at the same time, when things like that happen, like you said, people are discovering the music for the first time. Or even take a band like Queen. There are a lot of these kids today hearing Queen for the first time, while you and me have heard, Somebody to Love and Bohemian Rhapsody, half a dozen, millions and millions of times throughout our lifetime. Some of these kids go to see the movie and they're hearing these songs for the very first time.
Oh, they heard them on a TV commercial or whatever. That's what I mean. It's all this music is all of somehow. A new crop of people. And you know what? That's exciting in a sense because then nothing ever really dies if you don't allow it to. Yeah.
And see, that's the thing. Like, I remember when grunge was kind of taking over the rock scene back in the early 90s, and you had all these idiots kind of go, I'm going to just start wearing flannel, I'm going to cut my hair, I'm going to throw all my Motley Crue albums out. Motley Crue sucks all of a sudden. Now, I'm a guy that, always been a Kiss fan, always been, I like some grunge, but even if you look at the grunge music, the stuff that was good, it stuck around. The stuff that was, wasn't really that good. But if you look back in the early 90s, they started dropping all the rock bands and all the labels just were going to sign nothing but became cookie cutter stuff. And but the stuff that's, like we're talking about Queen and Kiss and the bands that really deliver the goods, and they could write a hit song and quality music, they're the ones that last, And now you're talking about producing... production quality on your new album. Now, I know you're a big part of that because you were a producer on the album. Talk a little bit about your decision to produce the album. I mean, as opposed to getting like an outside ear, was it a money thing or just the fact that you feel that the sound of your band best or how to deliver the production you want?
Oh, I guess it's everything's a combination.
Yeah.
But we were, we had the opportunity. I guess we could have worked with some people, people of different whatever. And we gave serious consideration to it. I mean, there was nothing, absolutely, even when the album before, we made some changes about how we were going to, in the early albums, it was part of our thing, we went with, everything we kept to one house.
Yeah.
Right? We wrote, record, mixed, all the engineering, the mastering done under one roof. Now, again, it was economical at some point.
Yeah.
Limitations, right?
Yeah.
So when we got the Metal Machine, we knew we wanted to change the process. So we recorded it in one studio, we had it mixed in another studio, and we had it mastered by Stu Marshall from Death Dealer in Australia.
Wow, that's cool.
So we didn't have to be there in person. Yeah. We just had to do some over the phone and talk like that, and some Eastern side work. This way, we
wow.
Idea because we felt that.
Wow.
We did the same thing with we recorded and mixed it in one
place.
In one place, we used the same studio that we had the previous album mixed in.
Yeah.
So we did both there, and then we had it sent out to Bill in LA to get it mastered. Now, in terms of the producing, I mean, we talked about it, and the guys just felt that I was the best representation for what the band wanted.
Yeah,
in terms of I knew what we were working for, being a primary writer and what we were trying to achieve here in the sound and the style, whatever, that we could maintain having what we really wanted
to do
out of this album stay intact. And again, for us, this is just us as the band. It came out exactly how we wanted it to come out.
Oh, that's
positive or negative feedback that everyone else has for it. We were happy about it. So I was excited that the guys felt
that trust
enough that they trusted me to do it, and I mean that's a huge responsibility. Seriously, and it there was a lot of long nights, long days, hours on end, making sure that we were going to get what not just I wanted to get, but collectively what everybody wanted from this album on a mental, physical, and spiritual level, so to speak.
Yeah, and
so it was very exciting. It was very exciting to me, and when we met Bill the previous year in LA, he actually came out to one of our shows to see us, and then after we got off stage, he met us backstage, and we talked and all, and the funny thing is I didn't realize who he was at first because I was still taking my gear out, and I shook his hand, hey, how you doing, and kind of in passing. I wasn't being rude. I was just trying to get and then James hits me up and he goes, man, and I said, no, I didn't. I'm still kind of winding down from the show, and I'm not putting everything together.
Wow.
So I had to go fix that.
Wow.
But then we wound up talking throughout the night, and he says, I'd like to work with you guys, and if you want to check out some of the stuff, here's my car, blah, blah, we're going back and forth. Yeah. And that was like early November, and I spoke to him the day after. We did some emails back and forth. I spoke to him the day after Thanksgiving that same.
Wow.
And we put everything in place. Like, Bill, we definitely want to get this done. We're excited. And and to us, that was another positive.
Yeah. And the cool thing about
and it was part of our vision, what we want, because we were. I'm not going to say any names or anything. We were talking with certain people to again produce and or do the mastering. Yeah. And we. Again, you could go with a producer. Some producers, that's a huge price tag, and you really get out of it. You just get someone's name, or are you really getting some input? That's a crapshoot, if you're just putting some money out to get some lift because of a name, that's one thing. But I guess I'm a little more attached to the music than that. So
yeah.
I'd rather save the money and I'll do the work myself.
Makes sense, and at the same time, you're
doing construction on your own.
Yeah.
It may not be
perfect,
but if anybody's going to be held accountable for it, then you're held accountable for it. So but again, we're happy with it.
It makes sense because at the same time, as great as it might be to have an outside ear, as they say, you also run the risk when you bring in an outside person that they come in and they want to change everything, or they want to drastically change over, you guys, you sound great, but we can make it better, and you end up kind of becoming something that the band never was. It's kind of like you're saying, if you had a typical record company, like a major label, come and tell you, oh, we don't hear any hits on this. Go back and we want a hit. We want a radio hit.
Right.
It allows you to have more
again, the
freedom.
Artists have. In a sense, the pro in today's market is the artist on all levels, and again, most of us are independent, indie type of people. Yeah. Right? But we have, say, more control, and so we can have a little bit more. The thing is like back then, artists got to be artists, and then they had people doing all the other BS for them, right? Yeah. Then artists complained that they didn't have enough control, and so on and so forth, and then there was a big push for that, and that's one of the reasons why the industry then starts falling apart. Besides the internet and everybody trying to get their hand into the pot. And then now, you hear artists have to write, right? Yeah. Arrange, and they have to play. They have to be multi-instrumental. They have to be managers. They have to people. They have to know how to write copy. They need to write a proper email. How to put together an e-pack. Understand social media, right? And then on top of that, you need to be efficient in Photoshop, Illustrator, Final Cut Pro. You have to use Pro Tools. You have to use these on. Jesus Christ, when is there time?
Yeah, and you make a great point, because back in the day, you'd have an A&R guy at the label who would do that. You or somebody in your band are having to do that now, all that work.
Everything. Again, is there anything wrong with that? No, absolutely not. There isn't, and I think the more power needs to go to the artist. It's their career. At the end of the day, it's their, they have to. Got to make the bed you sleep in is the one you make. Yeah, I think it makes for a better work ethic, because, like you're saying, who's gonna push your band harder than you or one of the other band members than somebody's actually in the band? Is if you got a guy in a suit that all he cares about is pushing the product, you're gonna do a much better job of trying to sell your band, because if he doesn't sell 50 million albums, right off the bat, we're gonna move on to the next band. We're gonna drop these guys. I think again with many indie artists, good many of us, I think you get more realistic albums because of that, because of having a little bit more control, a little bit more say, not having somebody trying to just push radio hits or this and that. You're getting more honest albums in terms of and even a band like Corners of Sanctuary. The thing is, even if you're not making $1 million, if you're making enough money to continue to put out new music, and the money you do make, you get to put it back into the band. That's a cool thing in the sense that you don't have you don't have this great work you're putting out, and then a big label is going to get the bulk of the money, and you guys are just going to get the chump change. So if you're doing everything independently, for a little bit of success you do have, it all gets to go back into the band as opposed to having to give it to other people, Yeah, exactly. Listen, again, being the indie artist that most of us are, not many of us are doing this for the money. Yeah. The fact that if I think the payday for us is that we can make music, and somebody outside of the band, the 4 or 5 members that are in the band, if somebody outside of the band is into the music, that's huge. Talk about the power of the internet, you guys are a little band from Philadelphia, as you said. So, how exciting is it for you? And I imagine people message you every day telling you how great they think your band is. You must get messages from, people in other countries that the band hasn't even stepped foot in. That's got to be a great feeling. it is. I mean, again, you get some weird messages too.
Yeah.
We wind up having to block people, which could be scary at times.
Yeah, wow.
It's just that's the kind of, I guess it's the way it happens.
Wow, crazy.
But it is kind of exciting.
Yeah. Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're breaking up, but you're saying that you have crazy people sending you messages.
Yeah, you have to be careful of that sometimes. So, we get weird messages a lot of the times, but but for us, having the opportunity to go to Europe, we did this past summer, and play for people that had this, but only either seen the video online or heard something. And there was people that are out, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes you understand the internet's worldwide thing and all really connected. You don't put two and two together until you actually see it
in your face. Yeah.
So and people are listening.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's probably the coolest thing in the world, and that's what an artist wants. They want to be seen. They want to be heard.
Yeah.
And they want to be able to share what they do with somebody else, other than themselves. Otherwise, why would they do it? It's about sharing a piece of you with somebody else, and hopefully somebody uses it. And there is a small group of people that seem to get our music, and we're very fortunate, and we thank them for it.
And now let me ask you, Mick, being that you were so heavily influenced by Judas Priest, I was kind of curious. Why then did you decide to be a one guitar band instead of having that double guitar lead like Priest, or that dual guitar thing going?
Well, like I said, we did it for a lot of years, and I guess when me and James together, we just decided, one less person.
Yeah. Okay.
Just one less person kind of could make the difference.
Okay.
Right? But that also then raised the bar for what we had to do.
Wow.
And James and I had spoken about this multiple times over the past couple of years, just in passing.
Yeah.
About how we played in the same bands before with the two guitars. So a lot of times the bass then just backs up the other two guitars, which is kind of but now he had to do more. I had to do more. I was actually never a lead guitar player. I still don't consider myself a lead guitar player. I never really was interested in it. I was always really into rhythms and stuff like that. So that was a challenge for me, right?
Yeah.
And that means when I was playing lead, James Smith had to make up for the lack of guitar that we did live.
Wow.
Right? So there was a lot of positive, it was a learning process for us, which pushed our comfort zones, but also then made us appreciate more what we were doing and to make more of a show of it. And we're, like I said, we're constantly learning. We're constantly trying to do better things. But like I said earlier in the conversation, we're going to continue to stay true to ourselves.
Wow.
That's first and foremost. So, for us to do something that's not necessarily completely off-center from what we do, because I think that's good too, but we do it in a way that's still true to what we do, rather than saying, hey, well, now we're this.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're that. And then next Thursday, I think we're going to do this.
Kind of whatever fits at the time, yeah.
Yeah, there's no consistency there. So, listen, if you look at it, every Judas Priest album was slightly different.
Yeah. Makes sense.
They were still Judas Priest, and there was an essence of it. When they went from, what was it? It was from Killing Machine, they had the live album, but then from Killing Machine to
British Steel.
Yeah,
quite
it was like night or day. But at the same time, it's still Judas Priest. It's Hell-Bent for Leather, right?
Yeah.
Delivering the Goods. That's kind of Priest.
Yeah.
So is Breaking the Law, and Grinder, and Metal Gods.
Yeah.
And then Painkiller, right? So, there was a lot, Turbo and Lock, and which to me is a fantastic album too, but, I don't know, but that's the the evolution of a band, band that's really focused on the music, so to speak.
Yeah. I know it's getting late where you are, Mick, so we're going to wrap this up. But before we do, I wanted to ask you also, do you feel that like if when you play with another guitar player, that there's more of a competition thing? Not just you, but like with any band. Say like, for example, KK and Glenn when they play together. Do you think there's obviously a competition thing going on where you're trying to play off the other guy?
Well, if you read KK's book, which I did, apparently there was to some degree, unfortunately. But yes, you're absolutely right. I think there is. Yeah. To some degree. I mean, we experienced that. I got, again, not being a lead guitar player for a lot of years and being happy with being a rhythm. Yeah. Sometimes, you always took a back seat. But at the same time, and then sometimes for recordings too, you kind of get lost in the shuffle and then it comes up. But I think that there is, with certain people, especially nowadays, like everybody wants to be a
guitar hero,
a super fast, sweet shredder. Yeah. So it's like who can play faster, as blazing as possible, as many notes as possible. Yeah. Like, I'm not that kind of player. I can't play like that. I'm more of a melody type player. Yeah. Again, there's that simple sophistication that I picked up from being a fan of Ace Frehley, right? Yeah. And so I don't know, and we look at it like as a band. Yeah. When I realize that you're kind of in competition with other bands. Yeah. Yes. Because you're trying to vie for someone's attention, someone's ear. Yeah. Yeah. But in reality, I'm not competing with anybody else. I really don't care what other bands do. Yeah. More power to them if you can do it. Listen, we're all in the same boat, and that boat's got a fucking hole in it, and the water's coming in. So, you know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, we're all trying to paddle. Some of us can paddle with less strokes. Some of us with smaller arms got to paddle a little extra, right? So it's just, that's the way it goes. But I'm focused on the music that we do, what I'm doing, what I'm writing. Am I aware of what other bands are doing? Yeah. I mean, you have to be. I mean, as a music fan, you have to be. But I don't sit there and stew about stuff like, oh, so-and-so's this and that and the other. Listen, if it's something that we want to do, we'll go do it. If we don't want to do it, we don't do it. I think competition within a band is a volatile mix for disaster. Yeah. I have to say the beauty with this current lineup is none of that. I'm happy and proud to be working with these guys, and I'm glad that we got this album out. And, I'm looking forward to what's next. We do got a new single coming out next month. Oh, wow. With a video. It's a one-off single. It's not on the album. It's something brand new. Oh, cool. January. And for us, Gallopping Hordes was already old. Wow. It came out. But for us, we had started recording it in December 2016. Wow. And we wrapped everything up in this, June of 2017. Wow. We were in the process of changing labels, so we had to sit on it for a little bit. We didn't sign to Killer Metal Records until later in the year. So then, we had to give it enough time to promo it and stuff like that. So we had been playing a couple songs live and trying to promote the album that way. Wow. But just because of contractual things, we had to wait on it. So for us, musically, it's an older album. Yeah. Even though it's new, so we started recording new material this past January. So we have we're working on a new album. We're hoping that we can get a new album out in 2020. But in the process, we like to pepper a single here or there when we can. How cool! Fresh. How cool is that? And so we'll have a new one next month, and maybe we'll have something else too before the end of the year. We'll see. The new single is coming out. You think that'll wind up eventually on the new album once that comes out, or is that like just no? That's a standalone. Track. Show up somewhere maybe as a bonus track. Yeah, that's always possible. Cool. It never dies. That's kind of a Kiss type thing, giving the fans a little something extra. I always dig that when bands do that. Well, like I said, Mick, it's been a great pleasure talking to you again. I'll let you know when the interview gets posted, probably sometime next week. But thanks for doing this. Let's keep in touch, and anytime you have anything to promote, I'll be more than happy to talk to you, okay? So good luck with... Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.